Aloha, ikomo mai, mahalo nakanana anamai. Hello and welcome, and thank you for watching. I'm Apollonia. I was born and raised in Hawaii, on the beautiful and most populated island of Oahu. Today we're going to talk about how I believe how the Hawaiian language should be taught fluently in public schools in Hawaii from kindergarten to 12th grade, not just in private schools, and how America should be better educated about Hawaii past and present. This will help heal some of the lost identity of the children of Hawaii, the cultural trauma Hawaii has faced, and the division with America mainland and Hawaii within. Hawaiian language was banned in 1896 after the illegal overthrow of the Kingdom of Hawaii. Since its revitalization in 1986, when the ban was officially lifted, Hawaiian is only taught fluently in private schools from kindergarten to 12th grade, and only an elective in public high schools. Meanwhile, America mainland lacks education about Hawaii overall. One of the negative effects of this is cultural trauma. Cultural trauma is when a community or a society feel that they have been subjected to a horrendous event that leaves indelible marks upon their group's consciousness, marking memories forever and changing their future identity. The illegal overthrow of the Kingdom of Hawaii in 1893 and the ban of speaking Hawaiian language in schools and in homes in 1896. This was that very type of event. Teachers, parents, kahunas, the Hawaiian leaders, were disciplined if they were caught speaking or even teaching Hawaiian at all. Imagine if Puerto Rico became a state and they were banned from speaking Spanish at home and in schools, and they were only allowed to speak English now. How would the next generation understand their music? Salsa, merengue, bachata. How would they truly understand their culture? I'm from Hawaii and I'm part Puerto Rican and I don't speak Spanish like that. But everywhere I go, people tell me that I'm not a true Puerto Rican because I don't speak Spanish. How do you think that would make them feel? Cited by Rosie Roll, Center for Parent Information and Resources, September 1st, 2020. This centuries-old way of life was changed abruptly in 1893 when the Kingdom of Hawaii was overthrown for political and financial gain by American and foreign businessmen. In spite of several attempts to petition and fight for the reinstatement of the traditional monarch, the lives of Native Hawaiians would never be the same. They experienced long-standing historical trauma that resulted in declining health, higher death rates, language lost, land confiscation, racial segregation, and loss of identity. Another negative effect is a division between America mainland and within Hawaii. The lack of education that American mainlanders have about Hawaii has set us apart tremendously as individuals and citizens alike. Before social media, people still believed that we lived in grass huts. They thought that we hated outsiders for no reason. They had no idea Hawaii was a kingdom or what happened. There was a time I came here, one of the first times as an adult when I came to the mainland, and I had to show my ID, and it's a Hawaiian ID. And the guy said, "Oh, you're from Hawaii?" Oh, he's like, "Are you Samoan?" Did you just hear yourself? I show you a Hawaiian ID and you ask me if I'm Samoan. You do realize that Samoans have their own country and their own islands, which is American Samoa and Western Samoa. But again, it's not his fault. It's just a lack of education. We were and still at times are not treated as equal citizens. I still run into people who think that Hawaii is its own country. I just laugh and I just tell them we're a kingdom. Within Hawaii, there are so many nationalities that speak their own languages, like Samoans, Tongans, Filipinos, Chinese, Japanese, Korean, Laotian, Vietnamese, Tahitian, Maori, Micronesian, and so many more. This too creates barriers between nationalities on very small islands. Welcome to Polynesia. And then there are those who can afford to go to private schools who are taught Hawaiian fluently from kindergarten to 12th grade. And those of us who went to public schools do not feel equal to them because we don't speak Hawaiian fluently like they do. But why is that? We're all children of Hawaii. The language is as much ours as it is theirs. Cited by Tom Smith on American 19th Century History, Volume 20, Issue 2. Over the past 3 decades, a rich historiography on 19th century Hawaii has argued that too often the islands have been understood as marginal and their people passive in the face of American colonism. This literature recovers the voices of the colonized, stressing the crucial way in which Hawaiian history is not American history, but rather that of independent people whose politics and culture were eroded by imperialism. A solution for this is funding for education in Hawaii and adding curriculum of Hawaiian history and culture to American schools in their history and social studies. By doing this, there will be healing from cultural trauma and reclaiming cultural identity. Hawaiian language being taught fluently in all schools in Hawaii from kindergarten to 12th grade, the culture as a whole will start to heal. The children of Hawaii would understand their own culture and history much better. The ancient stories, hula, music, the ancient gods that are still honored today. We will feel better connected to the ancestors. The void that has been felt for the past century will start to fill. Cited by State Hawaii Department of Education, Kawi Sang, 2015. The concern that the Hawaiian language would be lost with the passing of the existing native speakers would become a major focus. In view of the belief that understanding of the Hawaiian language is the key to fully understanding the full culture of the Hawaiian people. We would have a better relationship with American mainland and connect as one culture in Hawaii if the American government stepped in to financially assist in the programs to promote Hawaiian language fluency in all Hawaiian schools and to promote Hawaiian education in all American schools. This would show us that America values Hawaii and how we contribute to this country. In 2018, Hawaii generated $0.6 billion in agriculture, and we are strategically important to the global defense of the United States of America. My bradas, my dad, my former stepdad, my cousins, my uncles, my nephews have all served in the Army, Navy, and Marines there. Hawaii serves as the transportation hub of the Pacific. This will also show empathy on what was taken is now given back. This will be the start of a healing process and a way to equality. American students should learn Hawaii's past and present, as we are a part of this country. American students should be familiar with some knowledge of the existence of the Hawaiian language. For instance, Hawaii is actually pronounced Hawaii. Can you imagine calling Jesus Jesus? It's okay. You can pronounce it Hawaii. It's completely fine. Just understand and know that it is actually pronounced Hawaii. So if I meet you and I say Hawaii, then you get it. You know what I'm saying. You don't have to pronounce it that way, but you at least understand what I'm saying. Today, there is over 8,000 people who speak the Hawaiian language. This includes some family members of mine. And yet, there is over 1.4 million people living in Hawaii. America should be proud that we're part of America now. Not to be rude, mean, or disrespectful, but how can you claim us if you don't even know us? Should American mainland people want to move to Hawaii, which we welcome it, at least now they can do so with better knowledge of the culture and languages spoken there. Cited by Stephanie Shino, February 8th, 2021. Kauai newspaper, the TGI Garden Island. And all in all, initially, cultures will suit the values that you have of them, and not just seeing artifacts of it. So for instance, when people come to Hawaii, they have stereotypes. But when they speak to people who are white, who are from Hawaii, then they see the values of why we do the things we do here. And then they have a deeper meaning. They do this because they have respect for their culture and everything. And hopefully, things will be peaceful. So I've talked about why it's important that the Hawaiian language be restored to the educational learning from kindergarten to 12th grade in the Hawaiian schools. And why it's important to educate Americans on Hawaiian culture and how it would start a healing process between Hawaii and the America mainland. I really hope that you guys learned something today. Mahalo, a hui ho. Thank you until we meet again. Aloha.